For Mr. Rienzi, you say we can learn a lot from what's happened in the past. The Puritans were basically good people, and they wanted everybody to be good people. So they kind of decided who would be the good people and what the criteria were for that. And they punished people who didn't necessarily comply with that. What happened to them to make them so intolerant, and what can we learn from that?
Thank you, Dr. Carson. Yeah, the Puritans are humans, right? They're humans like the rest of us are humans, and they succumbed to what I think is a very common temptation that in many ways the American experiment fights against, right? So the Puritans come over here seeking religious freedom, but then when they get here, right, they don't necessarily provide it to people who have different beliefs from them, and they're bad to the Quakers, among others, when they get here. A similar thing happened in Maryland, which is established initially with religious tolerance and then kind of flips back and forth. So I think our early history shows that there's a long-standing aspect of human nature that says when you're thinking about religious truth and you say, I have figured it out and I know the truth, then you say it's my job to stop the other guy from doing other. And I think that's a bad path, and I think one of the great achievements of our country is that we eventually kind of, restrained that aspect of human nature and said, actually, everyone should be able to freely seek God and freely, as Jerry was citing James Madison, freely respond to the duty to the Creator, and that the power of government shouldn't be crushing someone who has the wrong views. And I will say that strain of human nature, right, which was initially wielded by the Puritans against the Quakers and others, and I think it originally comes from fervent religious belief, right, conviction that you're right, and therefore I must crush the guy who's wrong. That has lasted, but these days, frankly, I don't think it so much comes from religious people trying to use government to stamp out people with unpopular views. I think it's now more often anti or a-religious folks who want to wield the government to stamp out views that are wrong. And I think the truth is, whether it's the religious people or the opponents of religion, it's wrong, and it's wonderful that the United States has moved away from that, and we should continue trying.